I'm Makini Smith. In 2009, while going through a divorce, I decided to jump straight into entrepreneurship. In 2012, I lost my sister and asked myself, what legacy do I want to leave behind? Since then, I've become a serial entrepreneur, helping other women publish their books, produce their podcasts, and reach their big goals to walk in their greatness. I realized the importance of sharing our stories of resilience and how it can be another's guide to walk in a manner worthy of their calling. We are blessed to be a blessing. So get ready to be blessed with an inspiring testimony. Hey Faith Walkers, thank you for joining us in the Welcome My Stilettos podcast, where we have conversations with amazing women that are letting us step into their shoes. I help women to own their voice so they can create impact, prosperity, and legacy. I get inspired when I see another woman succeeding, but what interests me more is her backstory and her mindset on how she got there. I have missed you guys. It feels great to be back. I took 2 months off of the podcast, and I'm going to cover partially why, because this pandemic has basically put me at capacity, and I was definitely dealing with pandemic-related burnout. So I want to give you guys some tips on how you can go from burnout to breakthrough. Today, we are doing a solo episode, and we're going to talk about how our mindset is presently affecting us, especially when it comes to dealing with the pandemic and burnout. So we're going to talk about 4 ways to help you with burnout so you can go from burnout to breakthrough. So since you're here, just make sure you're subscribed and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and let us know how this episode resonates with you. I would just like to take a couple of seconds to read some of the reviews that have been posted on Apple Podcasts, because I'm so grateful for your reviews and you letting me know how the show is impacting you, how it's resonating with you. So we have a review from Delaney, and it says, I enjoy listening to all of the testimonies that each woman has and shares in each of these episodes. Kamali says, Makini uses her gift of communication to capture your attention. From the introduction, you are taken on a journey where you are encouraged to let your guard down and travel deep within yourself to find the validation, courage, and self-love that is critical to overcoming many of life's circumstances. I would love to be able to read your review on the next show. So feel free to jump over to Apple Podcast, rate the show, and leave us a review. I would be so honored and so grateful. So over the past year, billions of people worldwide have experienced chronic stress at work, at home, and in their communities. They struggle to change how and where they work. Many people have done this while homeschooling their kids. I know I have been, caring for their elderly parents, and so on and so forth. Some have been doing this while grieving the loss of loved ones. I've lost quite a few loved ones over the past year, and it can be a struggle to grieve during a pandemic. So given all of these challenges, the current surge in burnout is not an individual failure to manage chronic stress. It's a unique form of burnout, and it's unique in its causes and its impacts. So this is why the pandemic-related burnout requires a different approach to prevention and cure. So why is pandemic-related burnout different from other forms? Pandemic burnout shares much in common with other forms of burnout, as it is associated with heightened feelings of depression, isolation, and anxiety. But a notable difference is it's more difficult to recognize, since during this whole pandemic, the symptoms have become normalized. Most people have come to accept that feeling depressed, isolated, or anxious is just something that we have to endure. A study in December of 2020 was a survey by Spring Health suggests that the number of Americans experiencing burnout may be as high as 76%. So how do we repair this? How do we repair the stacking cost of this pandemic-related burnout? It isn't merely, a failure to manage your chronic stress because it can't be easily cured with the tried and true methods of chronic stress management. Addressing pandemic-related burnout before it presents requires an increased self-awareness and planning. It also means celebrating what we've gained and what we've learned throughout this pandemic. And I am definitely one of those people who I like to look at the silver lining and look at, what can be gained from an experience. And with all things, there are good and there are bad. So you can ask yourself, what good came from this and what bad came from this. But it's important to celebrate the good. So the first thing that you can do to help with the burnout is, number one, balance your energetic accounts weekly. Take the time each week to conduct a personal audit. Keep it simple. So on a scale of 1 to 10, what is your energy level? Do this on 4 levels. What is your energy levels on with your personal, with your emotional, with your physical, and with your spiritual? If you're depleted in any of these areas, look at what deposits that you might be able to make to replenish those depleted personal accounts. For example, if you're feeling personally drained, for myself, I will try to schedule safe interactions with people that I miss. So whether that be an outdoor walk, whether that be a Zoom call, a FaceTime, any way that I can connect. Even going to a grocery store with a loved one. And if you're feeling physically drained, try scheduling more physical activities into your day or your workout, your week or your routine. So for myself personally, that's 5-kilometer walks a day. Number 2, in terms of how to help with this burnout, is schedule and automate the replenishment of these deposits. So when we're exhausted and depleted and we're overextended, it can be hard to find the motivation to take control of our well-being. It helps to have a list of things, a routine that we're doing to replenish your physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual well-being. So once you have this list, you can schedule everything accordingly. So for myself personally, I have a self-care routine that I practice every single day to help replenish, and basically it's part of my self-love in terms of the mind, body, and the soul. So I break them down into those 3 categories. So every single day, for my mind, I make sure that I read 20 minutes a day, or at least 10 pages per day of a book, something that is feeding my mind, helping to educate me and stimulate my brain. And then listening to soothing music that makes me feel good. Most people who know me know I'm obsessed with certain artists, and I love R&B music that I can sing along to that puts me in good spirits. And then also for the mind, I spend a lot of time alone to eliminate outside distractions and energy. So that time alone helps me, especially as an introvert, to replenish, to reset, to fuel myself, and to focus on filling my cup. Something that I do for the body to replenish, I make sure that I am sipping on water throughout the day. So I have a 1-gallon water bottle that I try to sip throughout the day. I have, plenty of fluids that I'll consume throughout the day. Sometimes my coffee cup has water in it. Sometimes it's juice, but I make sure that I'm sipping on water throughout the day. And also for the body, making sure that I get 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night. I used to be that, team no sleep, hustle hard, and realized how much that was affecting my ability to function. And the burnout was so real. So now I realize that I cannot function with less than 7.5 hours of sleep at night, or I am not a nice person. So I make sure that I have sufficient sleep every single night. That is extremely important. And then the staying physically active. So like I mentioned before, the 5-kilometer walks per day. Something that I do to replenish my soul every day is prayer and meditation. So prayer to me is talking to God. Meditation is listening, being still, doing a lot of the breath work to calm my nervous system. And then practicing gratitude and affirmations. So as much as I've produced and published a gratitude journal, I make sure that I actually write in that every single day, focusing on what I am grateful for, being in the moment and appreciating what I do have so that I can be given more. But it helps put me, it helps to ground me. And then the affirmations to basically mentally reprogram the internal conversations that are happening. And another very important thing to replenish for the soul, for me, is having a community of healthy connections. Friends and family that I love, that I adore, that I know that are looking out for my best interest, because they will help lift me up when I am down and when it's a challenge to fill my own cup. So we all know that it's essential to put on our own oxygen mask before helping others. If you've ever traveled, you know, when the flight attendant is telling you that in the case of emergency to make sure that you put on your own mask before you help others, the same applies here in life. And number 3, in terms of ways to help with the burnout, is to increase structure to reduce decisions and stress. So by establishing like rules or structure for how to live, we reduce second order decisions. So in the process, we also reduce our levels of stress. There are some thought leaders that prefer to wear the same uniform every single day. If you look at certain thought leaders like Les Brown, he has his navy blue jacket with his white dress shirt and his red tie. We've got, you know, a lot of the big tech thought leaders that either live in their white t-shirts and blue jeans, or they have their simple uniform so they don't actually have to think about unimportant decisions. As we continue to navigate through high levels of pandemic-related and uncertainty, simply reducing the number of decisions that we make on a daily basis can have a huge impact. I'm presently reading a book called Essentialism, and it's really just about focusing on what's really important and eliminating everything else. And that has helped me to set some boundaries and to eliminate the things that I say yes to so that I can actually say no more often and have time for the things that matter to me most, including myself and my self-care. Number 4, celebrating small wins. We would all love for this pandemic to end. There's also a few things that we may likely want to continue after the pandemic. So take the time to celebrate what the pandemic has taught you, how it has changed you, how it's changed your family, your team, your community, your organization for the better. Be clear about what you want to carry forward with you when we survive this time in history. I know for myself, the pandemic has allowed me to focus on my healing, focus on healing childhood traumas, focus on spending more time with my children, focus on getting back to cooking and eating at home cooked meals. There's so many positives that have come from the pandemic in my world. So I want you to focus on celebrating those small wins in your world. So with small, manageable, and ongoing interventions, it's possible to ease the impact of pandemic-related burnout. Doing so won't only make our lives less challenging over the coming months, but it will have compound results over time by setting us up for post-traumatic growth rather than post-traumatic stress. I want you to think about your Wi-Fi or even your computers right now, especially during this time where you've got everyone's at home and you have everyone on the internet at the same time. If everybody's on, your Wi-Fi, your download, your signal strength may be weakened. It may not be as quick as you were used to it functioning, or even your computer. If you have 52,000 tabs open and you haven't actually shut down your computer in a few days or even weeks, it functions slower. It can't function as effectively as it should. So tabs need to be closed. The computer needs to be restarted. The programs and systems need to be updated. So think about your brain. Give yourself some grace. With this pandemic, the burnout is so real. We are all experiencing just being over capacity at the moment. So being able to eliminate some things and to decide what is important and what you need to focus on and how to keep things functioning effectively is so important. But just give yourself some grace during this time. To all of you faith walkers out there, I hope that you were taking notes, and I just want to recap the 4 ways to help you with burnout. 1, balance your energetic accounts weekly. 2, schedule and automate the replenishment of deposits. 3, increase structure to reduce decisions and stress. And 4, celebrate your small wins. Until next time, subscribe on all platforms. Don't forget to rate the show and leave us a review on Apple Podcast. Join the community of faith walkers and sign up for our weekly newsletter at awalkinmystilettos.com. Be sure to grab a copy of one of my personal development books available online everywhere. And if you could think of one person that would receive value from today's show, please share it with them. Be sure to screenshot this week's episode, and you can tag us on Instagram at @TheRealMcKinney-Smith, or you can tag at A Walk in My Stilettos, and continue to walk in greatness in your stilettos in a manner worthy of your calling. Have you thought about starting your own podcast? So I recently learned that I have been globally ranked in the top 2% of podcasts in the world. That is of the over 1.9 million podcasts that are currently active out there today. I was completely shocked, but completely honored. And I have been teaching others how to start, launch, and market their podcast successfully, basically giving you all the tools and all the guidance that you need with all the information that helped me to get to where I have been today. So our next upcoming virtual podcast masterclass is March 31st. There are limited spaces available. You can go to awalkinmystilettos.com and under my services, the virtual podcast workshop. It's a 3-hour interactive workshop where I provide you with the tools, the knowledge, and the confidence to create a successful podcast. I teach you the exact steps that I took to turn my 5-star rated podcast, A Walk in My Stilettos, into a worldwide hit. We will go through coming up with a plan, a concept, goals for your podcast, how to record, how to edit, how to produce it, the right hosting platforms, marketing it, launching it, monetizing it, uploading it to the right channels, and so much more. If you would love to start your own podcast to amplify your voice, please visit awalkinmystilettos.com.